Hello everyone, welcome back. This lecture we are going to focus on services and dependency injection. Let's dive into this topic. So let us recall what we have learned till now. Till now we have learned modules. Modules is a large piece of the application which consists of number of components. Components in turn contains a template along with a class. They both bind together to form a view. Now we are going to see next module called the service. Service is generally added as a dependency inside a component. So let's see the formal definition of a service. Service is a class with a well-defined purpose. A component can delegate certain tasks to services. The general purpose of a component is that it should not do anything data intensive, I mean, data or compute intensive. It is just meant to bind properties to the template and help the template to present it. So other than that, it is not supposed to do anything else. A good application will not have any compute intensive functions inside a component. In that case, if you want to fetch any data from the backend or any such compute intensive actions, data intensive actions, you can just create a service and then add that service as a dependency in this component. Let's see the syntax of a service. The syntax of a service is very similar to component. It's nothing but export class, the service name, and then constructor. Inside every class will have a constructor, same way like that. And we are in this service we are using two more services called the backend service and logger. So we have created instance of those services in the constructor so that we can make use of it in the function here. The function that is available inside the service is get heroes. As the name implies, you can guess what this service might do. This communicates with the backend and gets the data stored from the backend. So inside the backend instance, we are accessing the get all method, and then once we access the get all method, uh, we get the heroes that are stored in the database. From that heroes, we are using the logger service, the another service, to log the number of heroes that were fetched, and then we are pushing the heroes to the array. This is one use of a service they have used to talk to the backend, fetch data, heroes data, and then print the length of the number of heroes that are fetched, and then they have stored it inside the uh, inside the hero array. So this is one example. If you have any if your application wants to talk to the backend or any such case, you can use a service, yeah, as a dependency in a component. Also, we also learned that since we are using two other services inside a service, we come to know that we can use another service inside a service. So it can go like that. Even backend service will be using HTTP like that. So keeps on going dependencies. Dependency injection. So right now we saw what is a service. Service is nothing but the service components and modules add services as a dependency. So how to inject that dependency into those components and modules is what we are going to see. Dependency injection is nothing but a property of Angular that allows services to be injected in components and modules. And so dependency injection is so dependency injection is nothing but is a property that allows services to be injected in components and modules. And the next one is injectable decorator. Just like ng module decorator for module and component decorator for component, injectable decorator is for a service. Injectable decorator is used to indicate that a service can be injected in a component or module. What this means is that we can use the metadata function injectable inside a service. So that means it's which shows that it is a service. Injector is a mechanism that maintains a container of dependencies. So injector is a background mechanism. We are not using this keyword inside anywhere. It is nothing but it is a mechanism that handles all the services. Uh, uh, Assume that you have three components. Each component might have a dependency of a service. So app component might have dependency of hero service, and hero component may have a dependency of service C, but there should be some mediator which will inject those dependencies as and when needed in the components. That functionality is done by the injector. So it maintains all the services needed by all the components, and whenever the component is displayed, it will just inject this service, and the service will be called from the component. Provider tells injector how to create a dependency. So I've been telling like we can inject a dependency service as a dependency inside a component or a module, but I didn't say how we can what we have to add to make a service as a dependency. So provider is the keyword that you will add in the metadata of either a module if you want to if you want to add a service in the module level, or if you want to add in the component level, you have to add in the component metadata. All you have to add is a provider's property. This will make more sense when you see the next slide, because I've explained in detail about that. So this slide has a lot of terms. The first one is dependency injection. Dependency injection is nothing but it is a process that Angular does. Like whenever a component is dependent of some service, it injects that a service inside that component. And then injectable is the metadata, just like ng module and component, to show that it is a service. And you can add, I will tell about the properties that are available inside injectable metadata function. And then injector is a mechanism that is not that runs in the background, and that is responsible for injecting services whenever a component is rendered. And provider provider is a keyword that we use to add a service as a dependency in either a component or a module. So these are the terms that we have to be clear about services and dependency injection. Providing services. So services can be provided everywhere. The scope differs. You can provide the service everywhere, or within specific modules, or within a specific module, or within a specific component. Based on the scope, we have to add in different places. If you are adding it in at injectable metadata function will be inside the service itself. If you are adding inside the service in at injectable metadata function, you have to add the property provided in. So you're telling this services is provided in root. So if you're root is a root module. So if you're adding something like this, then the scope of the service will be the entire application. You can use the service um, in any component inside any module of the application. So this is the global. This is a global scope of the service. You are giving global service scope to the service, and then reducing further. If you want the service only inside a module, you have to add a property called providers inside a module metadata function, probably inside any app.module.ts or any other module like that. And then you can add you can if you are having two services, you can add inside an array the service names, and you have to import it first, and then you have to add them in that corresponding module. So this gives the service the scope of the module. Inside that module, yeah, the module can have two components or three components, but you can access that service yeah, inside uh, any component of that module. So you're giving the module scope if you're adding providers inside the service inside the module level. The least scope goes to component. If you want a service to be used only inside a specific component, all you have to do is you have to add providers property inside the component metadata, and then you have to list whatever service that you want to add. So it is up to you based on what scope you want to give the service. You can add in either inside the service itself, inside the injectable metadata function, and then if you want to inside only specific module, then you can add inside ng module. And then if you want inside a specific component, you can add inside the component metadata function. So I've told what is a service and what is a dependency injection, how we are going, and then finally I've showed how we can include the service as a dependency in either a module level, component level, or the global level. So let us see a practical example so that you guys can understand it better. So I think you guys who watched the component module lecture will recognize this application. This is the application that I created for that lecture. So in this component we have a function called action, which which increases the count based on the user button click, and then it keeps changing the image based on the click number. So we have used three images over there. So let us use what I'm going to do to show to demonstrate service is that here, instead of doing this inside this component, I'm going to uh, copy this inside a service and then call from this component, so that I can demonstrate how to use a component for service from a component level. So let us first run this application. It might take a few seconds for it to compile. Yes, it compiled successfully. I'll show the application once. So this is the demo application. So if you click on the button, the count also increases and the image also changes. Now let us convert this function inside a component as a service. For that, first I need to create a service file. Services are named as whatever name you give to that service. You can give that, and then dot service dot ts. So function as a service is created. First, let me import some metadata function, which is injectable in case of service. And then give the injectable metadata function, and then we have to create the class service class. I'm giving it the name action service. Now let us copy this function over there, because we are going to do all the computation over here. And so since we have copied there, we no longer need this. Okay, first let us include this service so that this component can call it later. I'm going to first import this service from, it's called action.service. So I've imported it. Now the main thing is you have to add providers. Since I'm going to give it this service a component scope, I'm adding inside the component metadata function providers. So since I've already imported it, I'm just listing it as a provider. And then to use this, I need a constructor. I'll create the instance of the service inside the constructor so that I can use in the action function. Yes. So let us do some alterations over here. We need to pass these count and other variables from here. To call that, I will be using the instance, service instance, this does service, and then the function name is action. And then from here, I will pass the count, value, path, and image. Previously, it was all handled over here, but since now we are converting it into a service, I'm just sending the click count. The value is used to change the image, and then path is like the path of the images, 3 images that I'm using. Images to finally fix the image that based on the number of clicks. So we are sending all these parameters. Let us receive all those things here. This will not be void anymore because we should return from here to the component. So first we will get the count, we'll get the value, we'll get the path, we'll get the image. Instead of this, now these are parameters, so I can directly refer to them. Yes, so after computing all this, we have to return it. We need to return the count, value, and image. Path is not needed since path is already there in component. You will receive the count, and it should go inside the variable so that it will be presented in the template. This dot image. So we have converted. I think we have some problem. Service is not a module. Let me check. Yeah. Yes, I didn't save the service, so it couldn't recognize. No, there is some more. Let us see what is causing this error. Something in the component is the problem. I've listed it as provider. I've done everything, so let me check once more. Okay, I think I didn't save the component file. So let us check if the functionality is as same as it was before. Yes, as you can see, I'm clicking on one, and it is the image is changing constantly. Let us show it first. This is the first image. I'm clicking on one, and it is going to the second one. It's going to the third one. Again, it will return since we have only three images. So this is how you create a service. I will explain the components. So to create a service, in the component side, what all you need to do is, first of all, your first action would be creating a service, and then importing that service from action.service. You don't need to include the file extension and all. And then you have to next one is you have to include in the metadata function as providers, so that it is registered as a dependency for this component. And then inside the constructor, you have to create the instance of that service. So you are creating instance of the service, and then these things are all common. Like it should be done for all the services that you're creating. And then you can call this using this dot service, and whatever function you want to call, you can call from that. If you want to see a service file, or you definitely need to have this injectable. It is a good practice. Even though you're not adding any property, it is always good to import the injectable and then mention it as an injectable. And then inside the class action service, I just have one function. So this is all about service. So I just converted a function which was doing all the actions over here into a service, so that the component is just lightweight, and it does not do anything more than just binding the value from class to its template. So this is all about services. What I showed was a simple example which just increases the count and then yeah, changes the images according to the click count. But you might general services would be like talking to a backend service through a HTTP request, and other data intensive operations that you want to perform, that you can perform in service and then return to a component, so that component is just handles the presenting part, or it just binds the property back to the template. So with good use of the service, you can create good applications, and you can write good backend communication modules and other data intensive operations in these services. So that is all about services, and I guess you guys understood. And if you have any doubts, please feel free to leave in the comment section. Um, so I want to recall what you have learned again. So we have learned till now we have learned modules. Like modules will have a number of components. So we learned components, and then services is added as a dependency inside component. So we learn components services as well. So these are the things that we have learned. I just wanted to recall. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy. See you in the next video.